One of the most controversial stocks currently in the dividend community is Medical Properties Trust, and this is actually a company that I analyzed about a month ago, and in the comments I got a multitude of varying opinions on this company. We can see there are quite a few people who are still bullish. We also have some people who are bearish, and there's one comment in particular that I do want to point out and address today, and that is from my friend Russ. He said, "Do you have any take on the Viceroy allegations about MPW round-tripping revenues? Also, a year ago, the CEO sold 13.1 million and the CFO 6 million worth of shares a week apart from each other's, and insiders own just about 1% of the shares, and you'd think they'd be buying with the price so cheap." So that's going to be one of the major questions that we address today, and like always, we will be jumping into some valuations as always and looking at some other news. But let's go ahead and jump into the analysis. We can see Medical Properties Trust currently trading at $8.74 per share. They've actually performed pretty well over the past 5 days, up about 7.7%. But when we look at the past year, that's when things get pretty crazy, down over 57%. Now we can see the starting dividend yield for this company is sitting at 13.86%. And keep in mind, that is not because the company has been increasing dividends. We can see that their 5-year dividend compounded annual growth rate is okay. It's at 3.64%. But the reason that their dividend yield is so high is because of this huge decline in the share price that we've seen over the past year. Now, one thing we really need to point out is the short interest right here. And you can see, according to Seeking Alpha, the short interest is now almost at 21%. Now, you can't assume a lot of implications whenever you see short interest this high. Maybe there's hedge funds specifically targeting the stock and bringing it down. Maybe there's just a lot of caution among investors, but we also need to remember this means there is a chance for a short squeeze. And according to Investopedia, anytime you have a short ratio above 5, that does mean there is the potential for a short squeeze. So while I don't really expect to see this or see anything crazy, it is something to take note of. Now, if we jump back over to Seeking Alpha, another thing that I do want to point out, if we scroll down here on the balance sheet, is we can see that their total debt levels are continuing to climb higher and higher. In 2013 to 2022, you can see it has increased pretty dramatically, and it's at a range that I'm not really comfortable with seeing it at. And they are also still having some problems with their tenants. Most recently, Prospect Medical Holdings. A REIT is only as good as its tenants, and if those tenants can't make rent, then you're probably not going to get paid dividends, and you'll likely see a dividend cut soon. So that is another major red flag. But because of this, they sold all of their Australian assets, and it's going to give them a much larger cash position to be able to deal with some of these growing debt levels and some of the problems with their tenants. But the big news that we need to address is that leading securities fraud law firm announces an investigation of Medical Properties Trust on behalf of investors, and this was announced on February 28th. And this is actually something Medical Properties Trust addressed the other day. We can see they actually filed a lawsuit against short seller Viceroy Research and its members, and it sent a letter to the shareholders. Now, basically they're stating that the short selling firm has repeatedly published baseless allegations to drive down the company's stocks. And you can see right here is the letter to shareholders, and it points out just a few things they want you to know about the company. Medical Properties Trust has a proven underwriting track record. Scroll down a little further. MPT's portfolio is well diversified and continues to deliver strong performance. MPT carefully structures its master leases to mitigate the risk of tenant bankruptcy. I think that's something a lot of people are concerned about right now. MPT's financial statements are carefully prepared in accordance with US GAAP accounting rules. And here on number 5, you can see this is where they address the allegations. They say, while Viceroy asserts that MPT engages in pervasive revenue round tripping, the matter of fact is that that is simply not possible to round trip funds sent directly to third parties. As our lawsuit makes clear, Viceroy's allegations are a litany of malicious falsehoods grounded in a distorted picture of our business. And if we actually pull up the lawsuit, we can see the thrust of most of these reports is that MPT purportedly engages in illegal round-trip transactions by overpaying owners of hospital properties and leasing those properties back to the sellers, who then operate the hospitals and return the overpayments to MPT in the form of rent. The reports also accuse MPT executives of engaging in fraud and juicing their own compensation. So MPT is definitely jumping back at these allegations, but the big question here that Russ also pointed out is, why is there so little insider sharing if this is the case? We can see current insider ownership percentage 1.21%, and there has been no insider buying over the past year, and we can see there's actually been some sell-offs at different points throughout the past couple of years. So why is this? Well, we can't really answer that question right now, but let's go ahead and jump into our valuation spreadsheet. And this is a valuation spreadsheet I designed for the sole purpose of actually valuing REITs, and we'll be looking at a few different valuation models to see if MPT is actually undervalued or overvalued. So let's go ahead and jump over to our stock screener. If you'd like to be able to download this spreadsheet, you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. Let's go ahead and plug in the stock ticker MPW, and you can see all of this data will automatically load in. Obviously, we're looking at a huge decrease in the share price over the past couple of years. Analysts currently have a target price of $12.50, beta of 0.94, so the volatility is pretty close to that of the market. And let's go ahead and look at our first valuation model, which is the AFFO multiples valuation. And basically, this is just a way to see how the market is valuing companies that are similar in structure. So I can just plug in some stock tickers right here, and you can see all of this data will load in. You can see the comparable companies for MPW and their price to AFFO multiple. The average price to AFFO multiple is 12.46. And when you take the price to AFFO multiple for MPW, we come to an intrinsic value of $17.27. That's pretty much double its current trading price. So based off this, it looks like there's a huge value opportunity. If we look at the historical price to FFO valuation, basically what we're doing is we're seeing how MPW is trading now compared to where it has been historically. We take the historical price per share and our current price per share, divide that by the historical FFO per share and the current. So we have our data, and you can see this charted out. And the average price to FFO over the last 10 years is 14.35, but it's currently sitting at 7.57. So again, according to this model, way undervalued. Now let's go ahead and jump back over to our dividend discount model. And this is basically a way to see, based on how much they're increasing dividends and how much they're paying out in dividends, what the current value of the company is. And anytime you do this, you do want to check that FFO payout ratio. And according to the data from Seeking Alpha, it is currently safe at 74.76%. Make sure you're not looking at payout ratio for a REIT. You do want to be looking at FFO payout ratio. But you can see here, I plugged in the quarterly dividend payouts for MPW, so we can see how much they pay out each year. And it looks like for the most part, we are seeing slight dividend increases, 3.85, 3.7, 3.57. So that's an average growth rate of 2.78. So moving forward, I am projecting a dividend growth rate of 1% and a discount rate of 8.5%. So the dividend discount model price per share gives us an intrinsic value of $15.62 per share. Now, obviously, this model is assuming that everything works out with the allegations, because I think if we do see some allegations prove to be true, then we might see a dividend cut, which will slash the dividend yield in half and obviously mess up this valuation model. But let's go ahead and jump over to our output tab, and we can see the two valuations that we used. Obviously, we don't have the historical price to FFO since it doesn't give us a specific valuation, but with the two valuations that we did look at, we come to an intrinsic value of $16.44. And the current trading price for this company is $8.74. And that's a difference of almost 50%. So even if we were to apply a 20 or let's say a 30% margin of safety, you can see it's well within our acceptable buy price. So the big question for this company is not a question of value. You can see according to the data and the metrics, the valuation models, this company is clearly very undervalued. But the big question is, are these allegations going to prove to be true? And the fact we've seen no insider sharing over the past couple of years is definitely a huge red flag. So honestly, for me, this is going to be a situation where I just sit back and wait and see how this plays out. I own a little bit of MPW in my personal dividend portfolio, but really not that much. But I definitely don't plan on adding at current prices. It could be a really great value play if everything works out with them, with their tenants and with the allegations. But overall, I feel there's just a little too much risk right now with all of the allegations that are going on. So I'm definitely going to be watching it very closely. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope this stock goes way up, but I think it's just going to be a matter of time for us seeing how these allegations play out. So there you go. There's a quick analysis on Medical Properties Trust. If you'd like to be able to download this spreadsheet, you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. Seeking Alpha is also still running a 58% off sale at my link in the description, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. So that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.